Hey, what's up, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My Two Cent Switch/gaming video for this week, where I take a look at some of the stories that came out and give you my thoughts and my opinions on them based on the ones that caught my attention. Before I begin, I do want to say my heart goes out to those who unfortunately who got caught in the middle of the tragedy in Jacksonville, Florida over that shooting during a Madden video game event. So my heart and soul goes out to those people. I just want to get that out of the way first. So why don't we get started with our My Two Cent story for this week? And for this one, we're going to be talking about Rage 2 and the possibility, or should we say uncertainty, of it coming to the Nintendo Switch. Now, last week, I think I did maybe a couple weeks ago, I did a video talking about my thoughts on Rage 2 in general, and and it's definitely one of the games I'm looking forward to playing when it comes out. And one of the questions that were brought up was about the possibility of it coming to the Nintendo Switch, and they said that they were, quote, looking into it. Well, this week they made another comment about it, and while it doesn't automatically, it's not a flat out no, it does give the impression that it sounds more and more likely it may not come to the Nintendo Switch, although they haven't officially said anything yet. In an article on DualShock, again, link will be in the description of this video, the article points out saying, quote, it says, Bethesda seems to be very key on supporting the Nintendo Switch with Doom, Wolfenstein 2, hopefully they'll bring the Wolfenstein, The New Order, and The Old Blood, and maybe Young Blood as well, and the more recently Doom Eternal, that show a commitment to the hybrid console that is rare among other AA publishers, which is true. I'll give Bethesda credit for that. The one game that has not been announced for the Switch is Rage 2, and at Gamescom 2018 in Cologne, Germany, we investigated if that would be possible. Its software studio director mentioned that the developers just don't know yet. They haven't looked into what it takes. They haven't looked at what it would take because the team is focused on the release on the PC, Xbox One, and PS4. The article said they talked to Bethesda's Senior Vice President of Marketing and Community, Pete Hines, and this is what he had to say. Quote, "We're talking about it, but it's a completely different engine and tech. The nice thing about Doom Wolf and Doom Eternal is it all uses the IT tech. Rage 2 uses Avalanche's engine, so it's a different beast in terms of seamless open world that you can play like that. We talked about it some, still uncertainty whether that could ever work on the Switch." Hine also commented on Switch support in general, mentioning that Bethesda's games certainly weren't a good fit on previous Nintendo platform, technically or otherwise. Where the manufacturer talked to them about the Switch and its spec, they realized there were a number of things they were doing that could work on the console. In general, any game that Bethesda can put on any platforms, retaining sort of the same kind of experience, they're totally up for doing it. We want as many people to be able to play our games as possible. A lot of time and a lot of effort go into making these games. So if bringing them to another platform allows more people to play it, great. So far the reception has been good. People really like the game, so we're going to keep doing it. So basically what he is saying, based on how I'm interpreting it, is that it's not a flat out no, but it sounds more and more likely Rage 2 probably won't be coming to the Switch. And excuse me 1 second. And I honestly have to say, if that turns out to be the case, if in the end it turns out that Rage 2 is not coming to the Switch, I think that is somewhat of a disappointment, but not entirely surprising at all, though. I mean, we saw how, with Doom that came into the Nintendo Switch, I mean, don't get me wrong, Doom is impressive that they were able to pull it onto the Nintendo Switch. But keep in mind, the Switch does have its limitations as well, and there may be some games that may not be able to be ported over to the Switch, even if they are optimized or compressed and so forth. There is that possibility that not every game is going to be onto the Switch, which is sort of unfortunate though, because I would love to see if they could bring Rage 2 over to Nintendo Switch, even if they are able to knock it down to 720p 30 frames per second. If some reason at the end it turns out Rage 2 can't come to the Nintendo Switch, one possible option Bethesda could do, and I think I mentioned this before, is they could develop a brand new Rage game exclusively for the Switch, maybe have it take place between Rage 1 and Rage 2, use some of the elements from maybe Rage 2 that they're using, and maybe make it as open world, as big as, say, like what The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was in a way. So there are other avenues that Bethesda can go if they want to bring the Rage game, the Rage series, to the Nintendo Switch, if it turns out that Rage 2 cannot make its way over to the Nintendo Switch. So bottom line, it's not a definite no at this time though, but like I said, based on how I'm interpreting it though, it sounds like it sounds like the chances are it is unlikely that Rage 2 can come to Nintendo Switch. But we haven't heard an official confirmation yet, so there may be some hope. But right now, I'm leaning towards at this moment that it does sound like it may not come to the Nintendo Switch at all. But I could be wrong though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 2, where this week we heard the announcement of Streets of Rage 4. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at the announcement of Streets of Rage 4 that was recently announced this week, to a surprise of some people. Now, I'll be honest with you, I never had a Sega Genesis though. I remember maybe going to a friend's house when I was young and maybe trying it out a little bit, but I never really owned the system though. But I have heard of Streets of Rage as well, along with other classic beat 'em ups like Double Dragon, Final Fight. Let's see. There are probably some other ones that unfortunately don't pop into my head as much, but those two are like the big ones that I could think of though. My first time playing Streets of Rage was when it was a downloadable game off the Wii virtual console at the time, although the game is now available to download on pretty much every system at this point though, minus the Switch at this time though. So the announcement that Streets of Rage 4 was certainly a surprise to a lot of people though. So according to several articles, this one is from comicbook.com. It writes, quote, that right this morning, Dotemu, D-O-T-E-M-U, kind of having a hard time saying that name, no. Still riding high off its recent announcement of Windjammers 2 last week, confirmed that it was working alongside with Sega on Streets of Rage 4, which is currently in development at Lizard, Cube, and Guard Crush Games. The first trailer of the game can be seen above, reintroducing two iconic characters in the fold, a heavily bearded Aulx Stone and a versatile Blaze Fielding. There are some brief gameplay segments thrown in with the anime-style introduction for each character, and the game looks like to be spot on with its fighting tactics, including combos, special moves, and more. What's more, some of the enemies from the Streets of Rage saga look to be back, as well as some new faces, including a lady who appears to have some form of electric snake, if you will. The game also looks to have co-op back with a vengeance, which will likely be online and local. The description they put out though was, quote, featuring hand drawing visuals from the team behind 2017's gorgeous Wonder Boy, the Dragon Trap remake. Streets of Rage 4 build upon the classic trilogy gameplay with new mechanics, a fresh story, and a gauntlet of dangerous stages with serious crime problem. Streets of Rage 4 recalls classic gameplay, but it stands in an entirely original arcade-style romp thanks to the experience of Guard Crush game and Dotemu, if I were to say that. Whether players gang up with a friend or clear the city solo, Streets of Rage 4 is a skull-bashing, chicken-chomping delight, all set to a thumping soundtrack that's sure to get your blood pumping, though. One question that sort of popped into the head of a lot of people was the music. Now, for those who may know, Streets of Rage 1 and 2 are famous for having really, really good soundtracks to it, and I remember playing both 1 and 2 and loving the music. They asked the question of whether Yoko, Y-U-Z-O, Koshino, K-O-S-H-I-R-O, will be handling the soundtrack in any way. Pardon me if I'm not saying the name correctly. Well, they kind of updated the story where they just received a tweet from him, and he basically wrote, quote, "Thanks guys, I think I understand what you're expecting, but currently I can't say nothing about Streets of Rage 4 things right here. I hope you guys understand." So as far as the original composer being involved, it's not a yes, but it's not a no at the same time, so we'll have to wait and see. Honestly, I'm down for a beat 'em up to make a comeback as well. It's very nice to see that Streets of Rage is making that comeback. Hopefully, it will do a bit better than, say, what Final Fight did with Final Fight Streetwise for the PlayStation 2 back in 2006. Not terrible, but not great either anyway. Compare that to other beat 'em ups that took an open world approach, like in some degree, say like 2005's The Warriors and so forth. So it's nice to see that Streets of Rage is making a comeback. As far as what the gameplay would be like, other than being the beat 'em up, I'm not sure what kind of approach they're going to take. I mean, are they going to add, say, like maybe a Metroidvania style gameplay to it, which certainly would be okay with that. As for whether or not we'll see other characters in here, and whether or not we'll see the main villain, I think, who's been in the other Streets of Rage games, I think Mr. X, he's going to be making a comeback, or are we getting a brand new villain evolve as well? And will any of the other characters other than Aulx and Blaze, like Adam or Skate, or any of the other characters from maybe Streets of Rage 2 and 3 to be exact? So there's still a lot of unanswered questions, including which platform is it going to be on. Although I assume, and I think pretty much everyone else has assumed, it's going to be most likely PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. No word if Macs or Linux are involved, so that's a possibility, but we don't know about that. But overall, definitely looking forward to playing Streets of Rage 4 when it comes out. Definitely a fan of those old school beat 'em up, so it's nice to see that coming back. Here's to hoping that it does well enough to maybe convince maybe Capcom to maybe revise maybe Final Fight, or maybe Sega to maybe revise other beat 'em ups, like maybe Dynamite Cop, remember that from the arcades as well. So hopefully we'll get a release date for Streets of Rage 4, and hopefully more information will come out about it. So, but overall, looking forward to Streets of Rage 4. Alright, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 3, where basically another big announcement, the return of the Onimusha series is making a comeback. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My Two Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at the announcement that was made that a remake of the PS2 classic Onimusha Warlord is coming, not only being remastered for the PS4, but to the Xbox One. the PC, and the Nintendo Switch as well. Now, I remember playing Onimusha Warlord, the first one, a long time ago. I remember playing it during my senior year of high school when it came out, and it was a very fun game to play at the time. Many dubbed it as Resident Evil with samurais, to be exact, and in a way you could say that, though. It did have somewhat of a Resident Evil feel to it, although not on the level of like the horror or anything like that, to be exact. So hearing this announcement was kind of a bit of surprise and kind of a welcome to see that they are bringing, or supposedly hopefully bringing, the series back as well. In an article from Variety, though, it announced that, quote, it reads that Capcom is remastering the Samurai classic Onimusha Warlord, it announced on its official blog. The action game first launched on the PlayStation 2 in 2001. Set in feudal Japan, it tells the story of the honor samurai Samanosuke and ninja Kaidi, who go on a quest to save a princess from demons. It was well received by critics, who praised its sword-based gameplay and narrative. It sold over 2 million copies worldwide. It's worth pointing out the game also came to the original Xbox, I think known under the name Gamma Onimusha, which had, I think, two things I remember they had that's different from the PS2 release. One, I think, was a scene where there was a doll that acted kind of like Nemesis in a way, like Nemesis did in Resident Evil 3. And the other was, I think, that there was sort of like a tug-of-war type of game where after you defeat an enemy, you want to try to collect their orbs before the enemy does, because if you lose that tug-of-war, I think they'll suck up the orbs and that will make them more powerful than they were. So, from what I understand them. The remaster is naturally getting a high definition upgrade. Character, background, graphics, and cutscenes will be upgraded to enhance visibility. Capcom said it also supports both the game's original display setting 4:3 and widescreen 16:9. These settings can be changed at any time in-game, although some parts of the game, like the menu screen, will be fixed at either aspect ratio. Additionally, Capcom says it's adding new screen scroll features to widescreen display. This makes the background scroll up and down according to players' movement, showing areas that can't be fully displayed from certain position. Other new features include an analog stick support for players' movement, an easy mode that's unlocked from the start of the game, a brand new soundtrack, and Japanese voices. The game launches on January 15th on PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. Physical and digital copies will be available in North America for PS4, Xbox One, while the Nintendo Switch and PC will be digital only. The game will be digital only in Europe, so that might be a disappointment, but there is sort of a silver lining for those Switch owners. According to Nintendo Enthusiast, it looks like a physical release is going to happen, but only in Japan. They're basically saying, quote, yesterday, or they pointed out that Capcom announced the remaster of Onimusha Warlords is in the work for the Nintendo Switch. Because absent from the announcements was any indication of a physical release in the West until Capcom quelled all fears with a Japan-only reveal for a non-digital version of Samurai title. Regardless, us Westerners who would like to save money, space, still have some hope. Capcom Okami HD, which I got from PlayAsia, I'm still waiting for it to come in, also had a Japanese-only physical edition, but since it contained an English localization, gamers could import it from their region-free Switch. If Onimusha Warlords follows suit, a physical version will be within reach. Otherwise, players will have to buy the title on PS4 or Xbox One if they want a case adoring their shelves. Onimusha Warlord will launch in Japan on December 20th. The rest will receive it on January 15th, almost a month later. So, while it is somewhat disappointing that we're not going to see a physical release in the US, it seems as though Japan will get a physical release, and more than likely, if that's the case, I could see a lot of people like me and others will probably import it to import it from PlayAsia to be exact. Considering that the Switch is region free, though, that shouldn't be a problem at all. So yes, disappointing they're not releasing a physical version in the US, but great that we can at least import it from Japan, since basically Switch is region free to be exact. Honestly though, overall in terms of this announcement though, I'm honestly happy about this. I really do enjoy the Onimusha series though, and ever since playing the game Noih, N-O-I-H, pardon me if I'm not saying the name correctly, it always gave off that Onimusha vibe to it, and it made me want them to bring the Onimusha series back, to be exact though. And I'm glad that Capcom, along with Mega Man 11, is hopefully looking at digging up some of their other IPs to revive as well. And I'm glad that Onimusha is getting a revive. My hope is, like with Mega Man 11, which they also talked about, my hope is that this game does sell well enough that maybe it will convince Capcom to not only bring Onimusha 2, 3, and Dawn of Dreams, though, which I would be happy if they also bring those to the Nintendo Switch as well, but hopefully maybe this will convince them, if it sells very well, to basically give us a whole new Onimusha game. That would be really nice, though. Just like they said with Mega Man 11, that if that does well, maybe they'll do a Mega Man X9, which I would definitely be down with. Or maybe, and I know this might be wishful thinking, perhaps maybe look at reviving the Mega Man Legends 3 game to be exact. And who knows? Maybe this will convince Capcom to dig up maybe some of their older IPs as well. Maybe look at bringing back Strider, or maybe look at reviving, say, Dino Crisis to be exact. So overall, happy that Onimusha Warlord is making a comeback. I hope the game does sell well enough, especially for a new generation, even though it's not getting the Resident Evil 2 remake style approach. Still looking forward to this. Like I said, here's to hoping it does well enough that Onimusha 2, 3, and Dawn of Dreams come over, and I'm hoping it comes to the Nintendo Switch. And while it is a little disappointing that for Switch owners in the US, there's not going to be a physical release over here or in Europe, the good news is the Switch is region free, so we could basically import the Japanese version to come over here into the US. And if what Nintendo Enthusiast is saying is true, that there is an English localization in the Japanese version, then language barrier shouldn't be an issue. So for me though, I'm looking at basically going to import it from Japan. At least that's my take. But overall, glad that Onimusha Warlord is getting a second chance. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, I'm going to give you my thoughts about the gameplay footage that was revealed of Cyberpunk 2077 that was just shown off, though I think a lot of people wanted to see that footage as well. So I'm going to give you my thoughts about it, and what I do have some concerns about it. Not fully concerned, but some concerns about it. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with the fourth part of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be talking about Cyberpunk 2077. For those who are those who may not be aware of it, although I'm sure a lot of you are by now, that is CD Projekt Red's next new project following the success of The Witcher 3. Now, this is a game that has gotten a lot of attention. A lot of people are looking forward to trying it out. And recently they showed off a gameplay footage that supposedly was shown off at E3 behind closed door, and it was a 48-minute video that showed some of the gameplay mechanics and so forth. Also, some new information came out about it, as well as we now have a couple of things though that they've told us, and this one is from VG247. As far as release date goes, that many expect that the game could come out in 2020, but according to what they're saying, it says it's easy to imagine the game will come out in 2020 because it gives CD Projekt Red amp time, and it would tie nicely with the pen and paper RPG. However, CG Projekt Red received sizable funding from the Polish government in 2016 to work on the tech advancement for a AAA game. The grant comes with a deadline, so expect Cyberpunk to release date to be June 2019 or before. Of course, CD Projekt Red could ask for an extension if they really need the time. Honestly, I would like for it to come out in 2019, but I wouldn't be surprised if it gets delayed to, like they're saying, 2020 or 2021. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if we hear this coming on either the PS5 or, say, the next Xbox, to be exact. It also points out, though, that you could play different classes like Netrunner, Techie, or Solo, and that you're not confined to one single play style. They point out that the game is the single player first and foremost, but they are hiring people for the multiplayer component. But they're saying that but according to the article, they're saying that it will likely be released in an update after the game comes out. They even pointed out the romance option, and apparently, unlike, say, Witcher 3, where you're confined to, Geralt was, according to the article, it's saying, but where Geralt, Geralt, pardon me if I'm not saying his name correctly, was a straight dude, Cyberpunk 2077 will let you have, quote, do it with whoever you want. Certain NPCs, some will be straight, some will be gay, and some will be bisexual. It's up to you to who you romp with, so long as they're up to it. Cyberpunk 2077 will feature full nudity. This is all that based on the 48-minute trailer. But relationships can grow to something more than, casual sex, is what they're saying. As far as the gameplay footage that they showed, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far, though. The big thing for me is I like the idea of the whole FPS mixed with RPG elements. That to me is kind of the big hook. I'm a big fan when they do that as well, just like how they did it with Borderlands in a way, although I expect this one's going to be maybe much deeper than what Borderlands had to offer, to be exact. So, and I definitely looks like it kind of reminds me a bit of Deus Ex Mankind Divide, only minus the microtransaction controversy that has. So I like the whole open world approach, the choices and consequences in the game, and visually, even though this is still not the final version, I'm impressed with what I see, though. I think the part that kind of worries me a little bit is the hype for it. Now, hype can be a good thing, and it can help build up excitement for a game, but at the same time, it can also backfire. Case in point, look at Destiny, for example. Look how overhyped that game was. Even some YouTubers were overhyping it, and then when we got the final product, well, it didn't live up to the expectation it is. The other part that worries me is the fact that it could be turned into a bad situation, such as, the part that worries me is that we could have a Watch Dogs kind of situation where the game was visually, from what we saw, impressively, to downgrading to not looking as impressive as people thought it was going to be, and then the developers pull the gameplay is more important than graphics argument, which, as a side note, I'm not against that argument. I agree with that, except that you sold your game on visuals and now you're backtracking on it. So I'm worried it could be a Watch Dogs situation. I'm worried it could also be like what Assassin's Creed Unity kind of situation, where the game is broken and buggy and the developers used a review embargo just to cover it up, though, to make so that people don't find out about it until it was too little too late, and the amount of backlash that got, to the infamous Alien Colonial Marines kind of situation, where basically the developers straight out lied about a game that they were not really working on, not to mention continue to defend it and talk about how they got away with it, to allegations that they stole money to work on another game as well. I'm sure we all remember that incident, though. It's also the same way I feel about with Doom Eternal as well. having said all of that, though, I do think CG Projekt Red does have something going in their favor that the other games I mentioned as well. And that is the way The Witcher 3 was handled. That got not only universal praise by a lot of people, but the way they handled the DLC situation, which, compare that to how other developers have, was handled very, very good. And it certainly sit well with a lot of consumers. So because of that, CG Projekt Red earned a lot of trust from a lot of consumers. So I feel as though CG Projekt Red is going in with Cyberpunk 2077 in a good position, provided that they don't shoot themselves in the foot or do anything stupid like what EA did with, say, Star Wars Battlefront 2 and the whole Battlefield 5 controversy and all that stuff. So as long as CG Projekt Red doesn't do that, I think this game is in a good position, and I think it has the opportunity to become a success. And if it does, it will join the ranks of other single-player games such as, Witcher 3, to games like Null, God of War, Nier Automata, Mario Odyssey, and Breath of the Wild, that prove for certainty that to all those who claim single-player games are dying, you need to look at these games to see how great they're doing. Oh, and also Octopath Traveler as well. I forgot to mention that. And proves that you don't need a game to be a live service or anything like that. You could make a strong AAA or strong single-player type of game, and people will buy it. People are willing to shell out money to buy those kind of games, and I feel that Cyberpunk 2077 could be that kind of game, though. So overall, I like what I saw based on the gameplay footage. I do have some concerns. Like I mentioned, it could be the Watchdog, Assassin's Creed Unity, or Alien Colonial Marine situation. But at the same time, given the way CD Projekt Red handled The Witcher 3, I do have faith that this game is going to be good, though. Whether it will be the game that defines video games, I'm not sure. I mean, some people treated Destiny like that as well. But it definitely looks like a strong single-player game, though. Now all we need to do is wait for the release date. And like I said, I want to play this on my PS4, but I wouldn't rule out the possibility of this coming to, say, the PS5. Or for those who have an Xbox One, I wouldn't rule out the possibility that we could see this on the next Xbox in general. So overall, like what I see with the gameplay so far. Now I'm just waiting patiently for the game to actually be released. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 5, our last video. And this, to me, is in response to a article from Nintendo Enthusiast regarding Serene Kagura Reflection that's going to be released on the Nintendo Switch, at least here in the US, though, since it's already out in Japan. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with the 5th and final part of our My 2 Cent video, and this has to do with a response to an article written on Nintendo Enthusiast regarding Serene Kagura Reflection, and why I kind of disagree with what the article is saying. Now, before I begin mentioning the article, I do want to say that I got nothing against the person writing this article or anything like that. This person is expressing his opinion and his opinion alone. I'm not saying you have to agree with the article, nor am I saying you have to disagree with it, but I don't believe this person deserves to be harassed or anything like that for any reason. If you don't agree with his opinion, that's fine. You can voice your own opposition against it, but this person does not, in any indication, need to be harassed at all. So anyway, getting on point though, for those who don't know, one of the upcoming eShop games for the Nintendo Switch will be the Serene Kagura Reflection series. Supposedly this is a game entitled where you can, quote, feel the girls with using the Nintendo Switch Joy-Con, to be exact. For those who don't know that, the Serene Kagura series has been around since the first installment came back on the Nintendo 3DS. It's a very raunchy, risque title. Obviously, anybody who's seen pictures of it knows exactly what the main selling point of the game is. It's been a hack and slash. It's been basically, I think, a Splatoon-like game. It has a cooking game, in fact. So this one, and so now we're getting one here for the Nintendo Switch. So apparently the person basically wrote entitled Serene Kagura Reflection, overt sexual content seems out of place for the Switch. It points out though, I'll read a couple parts of it though, alright? But if you want to read the whole article to be exact, I'll have a link in the description. You can read the whole article for yourself. It says, with the exception of a card game and a rhythm game, the Serene Kagura franchise is known for its Mii-based combat. Last year, Peach Beach Splash was a shooter ankle to Splatoon. If you're unaware of the franchise, it featured memorable characters, humor, and once again, sexual content. The reason I keep emphasizing that is because the newest game in the franchise focuses specifically on that. With Serene Kagura Reflections, players will experience a dating sim set in an anime world. While that seems normal, it's the use of the Switch Joy-Cons that makes the experience concerning. I haven't played it yet. It launched 2 weeks. But the trailer and description leaves me with a sense of discomfort. I enjoy dating sims and the Serene Kagura universe. Naturally, I should love a game that meshes both things together. Unfortunately, Serene Kagura Reflection focused so much on the Switch hardware that it makes the experience feel gimmicky. According to Nintendo Life, Asuka, the main character, will react through the HD rumble in the Joy-Cons though. It points out that it says, looking at the trailer, you can see Asuka getting close to the main character, from massages to spraying water on her shirt to brushing her body and caressing Asaka's Asuka, apologize if I'm not saying it correctly, legs. The use of the Joy-Cons gets players to act situations that are sexual in nature. I'm not condoning sexual content. In fact, one of my favorite games of all time, Kathleen, used sex as a plot device. My issue for Serene Kagura Reflection is that it feels anesthetic to a Nintendo console. Sure, the company has gotten more mature titles over years, but for the most part, Nintendo is known for being friendly family. And according near the end, it points out Serene Kagura Reflection is an interesting take to the popular franchise. The studio is doing something different for this installment, and while I'm excited about it, I can't help but think that this game is better suited for the PS4 or Vita. The sexual content amplified by the use of Switch peripheral makes it uncomfortable and quite honestly a game that feels unnecessary dirty. Xseed's game is a talented studio, and I have no doubt that they will deliver a cohesive experience. I'm just concerned that it will be remembered for the wrong reasons. The Switch is a phenomenal console that provides fantastic experience. I know that Nintendo's trying to cater to a wider audience, but I think they dropped the ball by allowing the Joy-Cons to be used in ways that utilize Serene Kagura's reflections. It can only harm the family reputation that Nintendo has caved out for many decades that it has in the industry. And judging by the looks of this, though, a lot of people do not exactly agree with this article, and I kind of agree to a certain, kind of disagree, but agree certain parts. I understand Nintendo is known for being family friendly and all that stuff, but at the same time, you can't be family friendly only, though. The thing is this: video games have evolved. For better or for worse, though, more and more people are getting into gaming now more than ever, and there are a lot more adults getting into gaming way more than ever, though. I mean, to me, video games are not a kids only product anymore. That's not to say kids don't play video games, but it's not the same as when I was growing up back in the 80s and the 90s in general, though. And while I understand this title may not be for everyone, though, I also feel at the same time, though, I don't see anything wrong with having titles like this. I don't see anything wrong with Nintendo having risque or raunchy titles or even violent titles on their system, to be exact. In order for their system to grow, or in order for them to be a success, they have to bring in different varieties of games. To me, the article kind of gives the impression of they doesn't feel that this game deserves to be on the Nintendo Switch, which I disagree. I'm not saying this game will appeal to everybody, to be exact, but I don't have an issue with the game being on the Nintendo Switch. I don't have an issue with risque or violent titles, though. As for the series itself, and to be quite honest with you, I've played entries in the series before, to be exact, though. I may have said this before, and I'll say this again, though. While I agree that there is an argument that can be made about the portrayal of women in media, to be exact, and I know some people might disagree with me on this, though, I don't view it as the most offensive things to women out there, as I feel that there are other offensive things out there to women, like treating women as second-class citizens, denying a woman a right to vote, though, the GOP's war on women, denying a woman the right to choose or whether she wants to get an abortion or not, or Donald Trump's infamous grab him by the you-know-where, as we all remember that, the comment he made that got leaked on his Access Hollywood video, to be exact. So there are a lot of things that are more offensive to women. I just don't see this on the same level or see it the same way as well. And honestly, I don't see anything wrong with this title coming over, to be exact. I mean, I am curious to see how the Joy-Cons work for this game, even if it's going to come off as being very dirty and all, or may come off seeming, making it look dirty, to be exact. And honestly, I don't have a problem with trying this title out, or have a problem with this game existing, though. I mean, yes, the game's not going to be appropriate for kids and everything like that, but parents have to be the ones to decide whether they want to have their child download this game or not. It's going to be up for them to decide. But for me, though, I kind of have to disagree with this article, though. I don't see this inverting Nintendo's family-friendly image and all. In fact, Nintendo is still putting out games like Pokemon, to Nintendo Labo, to Kirby, which I view as more family-friendly, to be exact. And in fact, I would be open if Nintendo were to develop or publish more M-rated titles. I would like to see them do more of that. I mean, it's great that they're publishing like Bayonetta 2 and they're publishing Bayonetta 3, but I would also like to see them develop M-rated games, doing it their own way, to be exact. I'm not saying they have to copy Call of Duty or anything like that, but I would like to see them like develop or publish, like, say, bring back Eternal Darkness, though, either remake the first one or give us a sequel, to even remaking or giving us a sequel to Geist. That would be great if they brought back that M-rated title. So overall, my opinion on this is this. This title will probably not appeal to everybody, though. It's not going to be a game that everyone's going to like, but I don't see it as an issue of it coming onto Nintendo Switch, and I really don't see this as damaging their family-friendly image. I mean, for crying out, we had Doom and Wolfenstein and Galgun 2 come to Nintendo Switch, and that didn't damage their family-friendly image, and I don't see this doing the exact same thing. I could be wrong, though, but overall, I kind of have to disagree with this article from Nintendo Enthusiast. I just don't see a problem with a game like this being released to the Nintendo Switch. Now, whether or not it appeals to you or not, that's going to come down to your preference and your taste, to be exact. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about the uncertainty that Rage 2 may not come to the Nintendo Switch? Do you think there's still hope? Do you think they could still pull it off and bring it to the Nintendo Switch, even if they reduce it to 720p at 30 frames per second? Or do you think it's sounding more and more unlikely the game will not come to the Nintendo Switch? What are your thoughts about Streets of Rage 4? Are you excited for that game to come out? Is it another beat 'em up that you're looking forward to trying out? Have you been a long-time Streets of Rage fan, though? Do you think other companies like, say, Capcom should bring back Final Fight and give us a proper Final Fight and not the one like Final Fight Streetwise to be exact? Do you think they should revive God Hand as well? I would love to see that happen. What are your thoughts about Onimusha Warlords making a comeback as well? Do you think this is a good thing? Do you think they should bring Onimusha 2, 3, and 4, Dawn of Dreams? Are you happy that it's also coming to the Xbox One, PC, and Nintendo Switch? Are you disappointed that the Switch is going to be digital only here in the US and Europe? Or will you be looking at importing the physical copy from Japan? What are your thoughts about Cyberpunk 2077? Is it one of your games you're looking forward to trying out? Were you pleased with the 48-minute video that they showed? Do you have some concerns about, like that I mentioned, of the game being overhyped, to be exact, or are you not worried and you think CD Projekt Red will deliver what they promise? And finally, what are your thoughts about this article from Nintendo Enthusiast? Again, you could check out the link in the description. Do you think the author was right about this damaging Nintendo's family-friendly image, or do you think this person went maybe a little too over the top and overboard? Do you think this series? Do you think this is this series shouldn't be on the Nintendo Switch? Do you think it will damage their family-friendly view, or do you think that it's really not going to do anything and you really don't have an issue of this game being released on the Nintendo Switch at all? Do you agree with what I said? Did you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? Excuse me. As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And hit that like button if you like this video, and hit that subscribe button if you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure to hit the bell icon for any notification of any new videos I put out. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal Me or Patreon. Link will be in the description of this video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!